The sky cracked open and fire poured down like a river of stars. Across every continent, humans froze, staring in disbelief. 1,000,000 warships had come from the darkness of space, each larger than a city, each humming with unimaginable power. Their metal hulls shimmered with alien energy, glowing like the heartbeat of some cosmic monster. The sun itself seemed to vanish behind the swarm of vessels, leaving the world in a twilight of fear. From every corner of Earth, alarms screamed. Cities erupted into chaos. People ran through streets in terror, clutching their children, holding their loved ones tight, searching for safety that seemed impossible. Governments scrambled jets and missiles, sending fighter fleets into the sky. Yet, against the alien armada, humanity's defenses seemed like toys, fragile and tiny. Still, even as terror gripped every heart, a strange pulse of hope rose alongside it. Then the voice came. Not one voice, but all voices at once, spoken in every language on Earth at the same time. It rolled over cities and villages, across oceans and deserts, over mountains and plains. Earth will belong to us. Resistance is meaningless. Panic swept the globe. Soldiers gripped weapons they barely understood. Families whispered prayers in the darkness. Leaders shouted orders into empty rooms, unsure who would survive the coming storm. The alien voice was clear, calm, and certain. They were the hunters, and humanity for the first time in its history felt like prey. Yet, amid the fear, humans did what they always did. They looked to each other. Strangers held hands, sharing whispered words of courage. Communities formed in seconds, strangers protecting one another. Across the world, ordinary people began to do extraordinary things. Engineers unlocked hidden codes in defense systems. Pilots practiced maneuvers in shadows. Civilians built makeshift shelters, barricades, and communication networks. Humanity's instinct to survive sparked like fire in dry grass. In the skies above, fighter jets darted around colossal warships like insects against glass. Missiles streaked through clouds, aiming for targets too vast to comprehend. Explosions lit the horizon in a staccato of fire and smoke. But the alien shields reflected every strike. The humans' first attack failed. Cities trembled as ground forces watched their comrades fall. Fear whispered that all was lost, but somewhere deep inside, a stubborn spark refused to die. Humanity would fight. Humanity had to fight. Amid the chaos, small acts of bravery shone like diamonds. A child carried her baby brother through the rubble of a city street, ignoring the fire that danced along the edges of fallen buildings. A father held a fallen soldier from a neighboring country, cradling him until the smoke cleared. A group of engineers raced through a crumbling subway tunnel, determined to connect communication lines before the aliens could cut them off. Even leaders, faces pale and voices trembling, inspired courage. Across the world, broadcast signals urged people to stand, to resist, to find strength they did not yet know they had. "We are human," they said. "We survive, we endure, we fight." And then, as if the universe itself waited for this moment, something incredible happened. People noticed it first in the quiet towns, then in cities, then across continents. The alien ships moved not like a storm, but like careful hunters. They advanced with precision, almost as if afraid of something. They had power, unimaginable power, yet they did not destroy everything. They scanned, they studied, and they paused. Humanity began to realize that even the most terrifying force in the galaxy was not invincible. There was a pattern, a weakness hidden in their certainty. For the first time since the Armada appeared, hope sparked into something larger. Humans whispered to one another in streets, homes, and bunkers, "We can survive. We can fight." That whisper spread, growing louder with every heartbeat. Across Earth, fear began to mix with courage, terror with determination, panic with resolve. In that moment, under the shadow of 1,000,000 alien warships, humanity remembered what made them strong. They were small, fragile, and often foolish. But they were clever. They were brave. They were unbreakable when together. The skies above might be filled with fire, the future uncertain, yet the human heart had already chosen. It would not bow, it would not surrender, and it would not die. The war for Earth had begun. And though the outcome was unknown, one truth shone brighter than any fear. Humanity had not yet revealed its full strength. The morning after the alien fleet's arrival was quiet, but the silence was heavy. Across Earth, humans moved like shadows through the ruined streets. Fires still burned where cities had been scorched, and smoke curled into the sky like gray fingers. Soldiers climbed into cockpits, engineers adjusted weapons, and ordinary people took up tools as if they were shields. Everyone knew the day of the first real fight had come. In the skies, humanity's fighter jets streaked toward the alien ships, their engines screaming, hearts racing. Pilots were young, many barely out of training, but determination burned brighter than fear. They had been told the odds were impossible, that their weapons would not work. But humans did not give up so easily. They fought because they had to, because the people below them were counting on them, and because humanity refused to kneel. Missiles shot into the void, but the alien shields shimmered like glass, absorbing every strike. Explosions erupted on the outskirts of human fleets, and entire squadrons were swallowed by beams of alien light. Ground forces watched helplessly, their hearts pounding with terror and pride. Each soldier knew friends would fall, but each soldier also knew they were part of something larger, a fight for the very soul of Earth. Amid the chaos, ordinary humans became heroes. A father guided children through smoke-choked streets, telling them stories of courage to keep fear at bay. A nurse tended to the wounded under falling debris, her hand steady despite the screams around her. Engineers worked tirelessly, repairing what they could and building devices that might give humanity an edge. Every small action mattered, even when it felt insignificant against the shadow of 1,000,000 warships. And then, for the first time, humans discovered something. The alien ships moved not like invaders bent on destruction, but like cautious hunters. They avoided some cities, ignored some attacks, and paused at certain moments as if studying Earth. Scientists noticed patterns in their energy pulses, in the timing of their weapon strikes. There was a rhythm to their movements, a flaw, however small, that hinted the aliens feared something unknown. This discovery sparked hope. In underground labs, teams of scientists, engineers, and hackers worked day and night, trying to decode alien signals, searching for weaknesses, looking for a way to turn the tide. Civilians joined the effort, offering hands, tools, and ideas. Across the globe, humanity began to feel a new emotion alongside fear, determination. But hope did not erase the pain. Cities were reduced to ash, families vanished in flashes of alien fire, and soldiers fell in droves. Mothers wept over empty streets. Fathers clutched letters never sent. Children screamed for parents who would never return. The cost of survival was heavy, and the grief was everywhere. Yet even in the darkest moments, humans did not give in. Their sorrow became fuel, their loss a reason to fight harder, to hold the line, to endure against impossible odds. In one city, a small squadron of fighter jets faced a massive alien warship. Every missile they fired bounced harmlessly off its shield. Every maneuver seemed doomed. Yet the pilots did not retreat. They danced around the ship like sparks against steel, buying time for civilians to escape. One young pilot, barely 20, risked his life to guide a transport of children out of the city. His engines flared, his voice cracked over the radio, but he never faltered. Humanity's courage, though fragile, shone brighter than any weapon. Across Earth, the story repeated itself countless times. Ordinary people acted with extraordinary bravery. They improvised, adapted, and refused to surrender. Scientists discovered patterns in alien shields, soldiers learned to anticipate attacks, and communities pulled together to survive. The first clash was not a victory, but it was proof. Humans would fight no matter the odds, no matter the fear. As night fell, the skies were scarred with streaks of fire and smoke. Cities lay in ruins, yet humanity still stood. Survivors whispered to one another, holding hands, clutching loved ones, promising to continue the fight. The alien fleet hovered silently above, immense and terrifying, yet unable to crush the spirit of Earth. In the quiet after the first battle, one truth became clear. The fight had only just begun. Humanity's weapons might fail, their numbers might be small, and their losses might be great, but their hearts, their minds, and their courage were limitless. And against 1,000,000 warships, that might just be enough. Days passed, and Earth had become a planet of shadows and whispers. The alien fleet hung in the skies like a dark crown, massive and silent. Cities still smoked from the first battle, but humans moved among the ruins with a quiet determination. Survivors helped each other, clearing debris, sharing food, and tending to the wounded. Even in despair, the human spirit refused to fade. In secret laboratories, scientists and engineers worked tirelessly, studying alien ships, weapons, and energy patterns. For the first time, they noticed something remarkable. The aliens, despite their immense power, moved in patterns that were deliberate, almost cautious. They scanned, observed, and paused before striking. Their movements suggested fear, or at least respect, for something humans had not yet discovered. News spread quickly among the scattered resistance. Ordinary people listened and whispered, "Even the most powerful beings in the universe are not invincible. Even 1,000,000 warships can be studied, understood, and maybe outsmarted." That idea, fragile as it was, ignited hope. Humanity's cleverness had always been its hidden weapon, and now it became the strongest light against the darkness. Civilians began to play their part in new ways. Mechanics built drones that could fly unnoticed, delivering messages or scouting alien positions. Coders hacked communication channels, sending false signals that confused enemy sensors. Farmers turned their fields into hidden shelters, and children helped by running messages and keeping morale high. Every small action became a thread in a web of survival and resistance. Soldiers adapted too. They studied the alien patterns, learning when and where the warships paused, understanding the rhythm of attacks. A young captain led a squadron through dangerous maneuvers, weaving between ships with precision no one thought possible. Every encounter became a lesson, every loss a teacher. Humanity was no longer blindly fighting. They were learning, adapting, and growing stronger with every passing hour. Yet strength did not erase fear. Each day brought news of destruction, lives lost, and cities gone. Mothers grieved over empty homes, and fathers mourned sons who would never return. Children slept in bunkers, listening to stories of heroes and whispering their own prayers into the darkness. But the shared pain created something remarkable: unity. Across continents, humanity began to feel less like scattered survivors, and more like a single, unbreakable force. One breakthrough came when a group of engineers discovered a flaw in the alien shields. It was tiny, almost imperceptible, but it existed. A single missile, launched at a precise angle and velocity, could penetrate the shield for a brief moment. It was not much, but it was enough. The humans cheered, hugged, and cried. They knew the odds were still immense, but for the first time, they had a glimpse of victory, a chance to strike back. At the same time, the aliens did something unexpected. They did not retaliate indiscriminately. They observed almost curiously as humans adapted, studied, and evolved. Ships paused over cities, beams sweeping slowly as if measuring not just technology but courage itself. Humans began to realize that this was not a one-sided war. Something about their resilience, their ingenuity, and their unity troubled the invaders. In small towns and broken cities, people shared stories of bravery. A baker saved a group of children by hiding them in a flour silo. A teacher guided survivors through tunnels while avoiding alien patrols. A group of fishermen used small boats to carry supplies through rivers, evading alien scanners. Every act, no matter how small, became part of a growing legend. Humans would not surrender. Humans would survive. By the end of the week, Earth's defenders had learned more than any alien could anticipate. They could anticipate attacks, predict movements, and exploit weaknesses. The planet was scarred, yes, but alive. And humanity, battered but unbowed, had discovered its hidden strength: courage, unity, and cleverness. Against 1,000,000 warships, these were the weapons no one could steal. no matter how advanced, no matter how vast. And in quiet moments, survivors looked at the skies feeling a strange sense of connection with the stars. They knew the aliens were watching, but they also knew something else. Earth was not a planet to be conquered. Earth belonged to those who refused to surrender, who loved, fought, and endured. Humanity had found its power not in weapons or shields, but in the hearts of its people. The war was far from over. The sky was still filled with alien ships, the future still uncertain, but for the first time humans did not tremble in fear. They moved forward with purpose, with hope, and with the unshakable knowledge that their greatest weapon had always been inside them. Humanity was learning, adapting, and surviving. And that, they realized, might be enough to change the course of the universe. The world was no longer the same. Cities were shattered, forests burned, and oceans glimmered with debris from falling warships. Humans moved like ghosts through the ruins, their faces etched with exhaustion and grief. Yet even in the darkest corners of Earth, life refused to be erased. Mothers cradled children in smoke-choked shelters. Fathers scavenged for food and water, their hands trembling but determined. Survivors whispered promises of safety and hope, even when every instinct told them the world was lost. Every loss weighed heavily on humanity. Entire families vanished in the flash of alien beams. Friends fell beside one another, their screams swallowed by the roar of distant explosions. Streets were filled with silence and sorrow, punctuated by the cries of those left behind. Children, too young to understand the war, clutched stuffed animals and blankets, asking questions their parents could not answer. The emotional toll was unimaginable, yet humans endured. They carried each other through grief, because to survive alone was impossible. In the midst of despair, small acts of courage became miracles. A young nurse moved from bunker to bunker, tending the wounded with hands that shook but did not falter. She whispered words of comfort to the dying, and helped the injured walk again even when every step was a reminder of what they had lost. A soldier guided a group of civilians through a crumbling city, holding the hand of a frightened child, refusing to let panic take them. Ordinary humans, pushed beyond their limits, became legends of resilience. Communication networks, once destroyed, were slowly being rebuilt. Survivors used radios, signals, and runners to share news across the continent. Stories of bravery traveled faster than the alien fleet. A father who saved his daughter from a collapsing building became a hero in another city, thousands of miles away. A farmer who used a hidden river path to supply medicine was celebrated by strangers he had never met. Humanity was united not just by survival but by compassion. Despite the suffering, humans refused to surrender. In underground command centers, leaders cried quietly as they made impossible decisions, sending young soldiers into battles where the odds of survival were almost zero. Yet they did so knowing that each sacrifice might buy someone else another day. Love and hope, not fear, became the fuel for survival. Every tear shed was a reminder of why Earth had to fight. Every heartbeat was a declaration. Humanity would not vanish quietly. The aliens remained above, immense and silent, observing the fragile humans below. Their warships emitted pulses of energy that shook the ground, yet they did not crush every city. Humans began to understand that even the most terrifying force in the universe could hesitate. That hesitation gave them moments to breathe, to heal, to fight back. Every day, humanity grew stronger, not in numbers or weapons, but in spirit. Communities adapted in remarkable ways. Survivors built hidden shelters in abandoned subway tunnels, forests, and mountains. Children learned to navigate ruined cities with the guidance of older companions. Farmers turned empty fields into supply depots. Engineers created devices to confuse alien sensors. Every human, from the youngest child to the oldest elder, contributed to the fight in some way. In despair, humans discovered ingenuity and unity that no alien technology could predict. Amid the chaos, emotional bonds became a force of their own. Friends who had survived together refused to leave each other's sides. Strangers protected strangers, creating families in the ruins. Mothers sang lullabies through smoke-filled nights. Fathers whispered stories of hope and courage. Humanity realized that survival was more than life itself. It was love, courage, and the promise that they would remember those lost. Even when grief threatened to break them, humans discovered strength they never knew they had. Tears and sorrow became weapons of the heart, sharpening determination rather than destroying it. And as the alien fleet loomed above, humanity understood a profound truth. No matter how advanced the invaders, no matter how many ships they commanded, they could never conquer what humans carried inside: the will to endure, to protect, and to love. By nightfall, Earth was scarred, yet alive. Humans huddled in shelters, whispered prayers, and made plans for the next day. The emotional struggle was far from over, but humanity's resolve was unshakable. They were battered, afraid, and grieving, but they were not broken. And against the most terrifying force the universe had ever sent, that was enough. The sky had become a theater of fear and determination. Humanity had endured loss after loss, yet still rose each day to face the immense alien fleet above. But then something impossible began to happen. It started small, almost unnoticed. One massive warship blinked, its shimmering hull dissolving into nothing. Pilots who had been preparing for battle froze in shock, and ground forces stared upward, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. And then another vanished. And another. A ripple of disbelief spread across Earth. Entire fleets of alien warships, which had once cast shadows over continents, began to disappear as if erased from existence. No fireballs, no explosions, just silence and empty space where once a million ships had hovered. Humanity stopped to watch, hearts pounding in a mixture of fear, hope, and disbelief. No one knew why. Scientists frantically scanned the skies, trying to detect signals, energy traces, anything to explain the sudden disappearance. Theories ran wild. A galactic recall, a massive internal failure, or perhaps the aliens had underestimated humans and decided to retreat. Strategists pored over every piece of data, searching for patterns that might warn them of a hidden trap. But the truth remained a mystery. Even as fear mixed with wonder, humans did not pause to celebrate. Too many lives had been lost. Too many cities lay in ruins. Families were still grieving, and the scars of battle were deep. Yet among the destruction, a spark of cautious hope began to grow. Humanity had survived the impossible. They had endured the might of 1,000,000 warships and lived to see the skies empty once more. Across Earth, people stepped out into the open for the first time in months. Children ran across shattered streets, laughing and crying at the same time. Families embraced, tears streaming down their faces. Soldiers lowered their weapons, still alert, still wary. But relief and amazement shone in their eyes. Humanity had faced extinction and survived. Against all odds, they were still here. In cities and villages, communities began to rebuild. Engineers repaired critical systems, connecting communication networks that had been destroyed. Farmers worked to salvage what crops they could. Teachers returned to classrooms, and children returned to play in streets that, though scarred, were finally free from the shadow of alien warships. Humanity had endured devastation, but the human spirit had not been broken. The leaders of Earth met in emergency sessions, still cautious, still unsure. The alien fleet's disappearance did not erase the cost of war. It did not replace the lives that had been lost. But it offered something even more precious: a chance to rise again. Humanity began to understand that survival was not just about weapons or technology. It was about courage, unity, and the will to endure when the universe seemed determined to destroy them. Stories spread quickly. From city to city, from village to village, tales of survival, heroism, and sacrifice became legend. A young girl who had guided her siblings through the ruins of a city. A soldier who had sacrificed himself to save a platoon of civilians. A teacher who had led children through underground tunnels. All became symbols of human resilience. Every story reminded people that humanity's greatest strength was not in machines or armies, but in hearts and minds united against adversity. Even as the mystery of the vanished alien fleet lingered, Earth was alive. Birds returned to forests. Rivers sparkled with sunlight, and people began to plant seeds in fields that had once been battlegrounds. Humanity understood that life itself was a victory, fragile but defiant. They had survived unimaginable odds, and now, for the first time, the future belonged to them. In quiet moments, people looked at the night sky, remembering the terror and the fire, but also the courage and the unity. They knew the aliens had come with 1,000,000 warships determined to conquer Earth. And yet those warships were gone. Humanity had not been destroyed. They had endured. They had adapted. They had survived. And somehow, against forces far greater than they could imagine, humans had won. Not through sheer power, but through the strength of heart, mind, and spirit. The war might not be over. The universe might still hold dangers beyond comprehension. But one truth had become clear. Humanity had shown the stars that Earth was not a planet to be conquered. Humanity had survived, and in doing so, they had proven a lesson the universe would never forget. The days after the alien fleet vanished were quiet, but heavy with thought. Humans walked through cities that still smoldered, staring at the ruins of buildings that had once teemed with life. Streets were littered with debris, cars overturned, and the remnants of battles that had scarred the Earth forever. Yet amidst the destruction there was something extraordinary. Life persisted. People returned to their homes, salvaging what they could. They helped neighbors rebuild shelters, shared food, and tended the wounded. Humanity was alive, and the spark of survival burned brighter than ever. Every survivor carried memories of what had been lost. Parents mourned children who would never return. Friends remembered comrades who had fallen protecting others. Streets and squares were filled with ghosts of the past, yet humans did not collapse under sorrow. They learned to move forward, carrying grief as a weight they could bear because it was tied to love, to family, and to everything worth fighting for. Communities became stronger than ever. People rebuilt together, not just to survive, but to honor those who had given their lives. Engineers repaired broken systems, reconnecting cities with electricity and communication. Farmers planted seeds in scorched fields. Teachers returned to classrooms, sharing lessons not only in math or language, but in courage and resilience. Every act of rebuilding became a symbol of defiance. Earth would not only survive, it would rise. And yet the mystery of the alien fleet lingered. Scientists studied the skies, satellites scanning for any trace of the vanished ships. They debated theories. Had the aliens retreated? Were they observing from afar? Or had they simply underestimated humanity and vanished in awe of the spirit they could not conquer? No one knew for certain. But humans realized they did not need the answers to continue forward. Survival, after all, had always been enough. In quiet moments, people reflected on the war. Soldiers sat under trees gazing at the stars. Mothers whispered prayers for the lost. Children who had seen horrors too great for their age still laughed and ran through ruins, their innocence a reminder of hope. Humanity began to understand that its true power was not in weapons or numbers or technology, but in the hearts of people who refused to give up, even when everything seemed lost. Stories of courage spread like wildfire. A young boy who had guided his sister through a burning city became a symbol of bravery. A doctor who had tended to hundreds of injured civilians became a hero, whose name would never be forgotten. Acts of selflessness, love, and ingenuity became the foundation of a new history. One written not in battles won, but in human hearts that refused to break. Even as life returned slowly, humans began to look upward. The stars, once terrifying, became a canvas of possibility. The alien fleet had come with the threat of destruction, yet its disappearance reminded humans of something powerful. No force, no matter how great, could conquer determination, love, or courage. Humanity had faced extinction, and had not only survived but learned, adapted, and grown stronger. Communities told stories to children, passing down lessons of hope and strength. The universe may challenge us, parents said, But the heart of Earth beat stronger than any fleet of stars. Never forget that. And the children, wide-eyed, listened and absorbed the courage that had saved them. The legacy of survival became a promise. Humanity would endure no matter what. By night, the Earth was calm. Fires burned low. Oceans reflected starlight. And the air was filled with a quiet sense of renewal. Humans sat together talking, laughing, and crying, aware of the journey they had survived. Every scar on the land was a reminder of courage, every shadow a memory of love lost, and every heartbeat a testament to the unbreakable spirit of humanity. The alien fleet might have vanished, leaving questions that could never fully be answered. But humans had already discovered the most important truth. Their strength did not lie in the weapons they built, or the numbers they could muster. Their strength was within, their unity, their courage, and their unyielding desire to survive and protect what they loved. Earth had been tested in the fire of the stars, and humanity had passed. They would rebuild, remember, and endure. The scars would remain, but the human spirit had proven stronger than fear, stronger than loss, and stronger than any force that had tried to conquer it. Years had passed since the alien fleet vanished without a trace. Earth bore scars of battle, cities rebuilt slowly, forests regrown, and rivers cleared of debris. But humanity had endured. Survivors looked back not in sorrow alone, but with pride. They had faced the impossible, stared into the eyes of extinction, and emerged stronger. Every life lost had left a mark on the world. Yet every heart that survived became part of a growing legacy. Children who had lived through the war grew up hearing stories of courage and hope. Parents told them of brave pilots who risked everything to protect civilians, of engineers who defied death to build devices that turned the tide, and of ordinary people who became heroes by saving strangers. These stories were no longer just tales. They were lessons of endurance, creativity, and love. The future of humanity would always carry them forward. Cities rose again from rubble, guided by survivors who refused to forget. Architects used the ruins as reminders of the past, blending strength and beauty to honor both life and loss. Engineers innovated technologies once thought impossible, inspired by the alien warships they had faced and the human ingenuity that had survived. Humanity's knowledge and spirit expanded faster than ever before, fueled by determination and by the memory of the day the stars had brought war to Earth. Communities remained close, bound not just by blood but by shared experience. Strangers became friends. Friends became family. The bonds forged in fire were stronger than any force the universe could send. People learned that unity was their true weapon. A single individual could survive a moment of fear, but together humanity could endure anything. Every year, memorials were built where the most terrible battles had taken place. Statues, monuments, and gardens honored those who had fallen, ensuring that their sacrifice would never be forgotten. Citizens gathered to remember not only the dead, but the courage of those who had fought and the resilience of those who had lived. Tears mingled with laughter, grief with joy, as humanity celebrated the spirit that had saved them. Even the stars no longer seemed threatening. Humans looked upward with wonder, curiosity, and determination. The alien fleet had come with the promise of annihilation, but they had underestimated something no machine could measure: human will. Somewhere in the cosmos, the invaders might still watch, but Earth had proven itself untouchable, not through weapons but through heart. Humanity's courage, unity, and love had made the planet invincible. Legends of the Great War spread beyond borders and languages. Scholars wrote books, storytellers performed plays, and songs echoed through rebuilt cities. The message was clear. Humanity was clever, resilient, and unbreakable. The universe could challenge them, test them, and even threaten them with 1,000,000 warships, but the human spirit would always rise. In quiet moments, survivors would gather beneath the stars, sharing memories of those they had loved and lost. They spoke of bravery, sacrifice, and hope, passing these lessons to the next generation. Children listened with wide eyes, imagining the courage it took to face darkness without faltering. And in their hearts, they carried the promise that humanity would endure, no matter what challenges lay ahead. Even as time moved forward, Earth remembered. The scars of war remained, but they were not signs of defeat. They were proof of resilience. Humanity's survival had been written in tears, courage, and unity, and it would be remembered forever. They had faced extinction, stared at 1,000,000 warships, and lived to tell the story. The legacy of that day became a beacon for generations. The universe may bring threats unimaginable, but humans could never be conquered. And so, the heart of Earth beat stronger than ever. The people who had survived passed their knowledge, courage, and hope to the next generation. Life flourished, communities thrived, and the spirit of humanity shone brighter than any star. The warships may have come to destroy, but humanity had transformed fear into strength, grief into determination, and chaos into unity. Earth would never forget, and neither would the humans who called it home. They had faced the impossible and survived. They had endured when all seemed lost. They had proven that even against 1,000,000 warships, humanity could not be defeated, because humanity's greatest power was not in weapons or numbers. It was in the heart, the courage, and the unbreakable spirit of every person who dared to survive, to fight, and to hope. And that spirit would echo across the stars forever.